Good. Thank you so much for making that change to the
Yeah,
to
I
the
forgot that. I remember you already raised that to me. Sorry.
that's okay. And I want try to pause this. I want to stop the video for a second. Yeah, because we don't need to be recording right this second. So, all right, cool. Actually, I think I might just end it. Put in waiting room. Welcome everyone. We're going to be starting in another minute or two. We have people coming into the waiting room and we are letting them in. If you could make sure that you have yourself on mute, that will help with all the background noise. So again, mute yourself. And then if you need to get some water, take a bathroom break because you have another minute before we get started. Go ahead and do that. And then if you're all set already, if you can throw in the chat where you're watching from today, that would be great. I don't know if everyone knows, but I'm in the Chicago area. I'm in the western suburbs. So yeah, so put that in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. That would be wonderful. We'll get started in another minute. And also you might notice that I have I'm taking a recording and I also have my AI extension taking notes too. So I plan on sharing those with you as well later on this afternoon in the email. So again, make sure you're muted. And then if you can throw in the chat where you are watching this from today, that would be great. We would appreciate that. We'll be getting started in another minute as people come into the waiting room. And we want to make sure too that we had a little bit of technical issues. What a surprise with Zoom and sending out the right Zoom link to people. So yeah, but that's to be expected. Sometimes it happens. And I'm letting people into the Zoom room right now. If you can throw in the chat where you're watching from, and again, be sure to mute yourself. If you haven't printed off the workbook, you should have received it in one of the emails, actually in the email that we sent out yesterday. We didn't want to overwhelm you with too much information. So we did send out the workbook. It is a Google Doc that we wanted you to print off ahead of time. If you didn't have the time to print it off, no worries. You can always print it off after today's session, but it would be helpful. And if you didn't receive the workbook, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. That would be excellent. Oh, and we have someone joining us from Spain. How wonderful, Rebecca. It's great to see you. John Stephen, that's awesome that you're here from the north suburbs of Chicago. We have someone in Pennsylvania. That's excellent. And I am doing the live stream on Facebook. Jarrell, is that not working? I may have to restart that then. We have someone from Florida, someone in Louisiana. Yes, we can resend you. So if you didn't get the workbook, we'll make sure in the email that we send out this afternoon too, that'll have the recording, we'll make sure that we put the link to the workbook in there too. So yeah, so definitely make sure the email will go out around 3:30 today, Central Standard Time, and it'll have the recording. It will also have the workbook in there. So if you didn't get that, then we'll make sure that you get that. And then Jarrell, let me know. No live stream still on Facebook. Okay, then I'm going to have to restart that. Okay, let me stop my share. All right, great. So again, if you don't have your workbook in front of you, it's no big deal. But since I have to restart the Facebook stream, you can go ahead and try to, if you think you'll have enough time to print out the workbook, go ahead and do that. And then make sure too that you mute yourself, because I'm hearing a little bit of background noise. And when everyone mutes themselves, that helps a lot with that background noise. All right, I'm trying this live stream again in a second here. Okay. All right, so we have that. This is going live. All right, and again, if you haven't had the opportunity to put in the chat where you're watching from today, let us know, because we want to know. I don't know if everyone is aware, but I am in the western suburbs of Chicago. Maybe you can tell from my accent. Facebook is asking me all these strange questions. Oh dear, this is weird. Oh no, I might have answered something incorrectly. I've never encountered this before. This is bizarre. Okay, well, I think my Facebook post is going to. All right, and again, if you haven't had the opportunity to put in the tell for my. Oh dear, we may not be able to do the stream. All right, I think we're going to have to give up on that. And what we can do, maybe we can give everyone in the Facebook group the access to the Zoom recording. It's just not working. That was really strange. I've never encountered that before. All righty then. Well, let's get back to this. I don't know what that was all about, but oh well. Okay, and then I will share. Thank you everyone for sharing in the chat where you're watching from. This is terrific. And I still have more people in the waiting room. So I don't want anyone to be stuck in the waiting room. That would not be good. That's happened to me, and that's not a good thing. All right, and let me share my presentation finally with you. And we are going to end 45 minutes into the hour too, so we will be able to do that. So don't stress out. And yes, we have Debbie from LA. That's awesome. Very, very good. Okay, so again, let's get this started. We're here. Everyone, please mute yourself too to help with that background noise. Today is day one of to land an ideal role without doing a job search. I have a lot in store for you in the next 3 days, but we're going to be flying through it. I really appreciate your time, and kudos to you for blocking out this time to spend on this, because your career is very important. Our work is very important. And if we don't make it a priority, no one else is going to make it a priority. So it's really essential that we do that. And I just saw someone pop in the waiting room. Okay, sorry. I need to make sure I'm letting people in. There we go. All right, awesome. Yeah, so again, kudos to you for making this time to do this. And I'm very focused on giving you impactful information. I do need everyone to make sure that you are on mute too, because again, of the background noise can be very distracting. So if you can mute yourself, that would be great. I'd appreciate it. And we will move forward. Okay, so today we're going to be focused on my program, my overall program, and some of you know this, some of you don't already. In fact, we have a variety of people in the audience. We have clients. My clients are in the audience. We also have new connections who are in the audience, and some older connections too. So I'm really glad to have a variety of people in the audience in this masterclass today. So this is great. So today is day one, and we'll be talking about reflecting. Reflecting on your brand. That is really what's most important. And also to help you with reflecting on your brand, tapping into your connections right away from the get-go. So, and that's how you land an ideal role without doing a job search. Really, your connections are key. And I'm going to be helping you to leverage them even more. You might be thinking, hey, Christine, I do a pretty good job of tapping into my network and my connections. By the way, I want to ditch the word network. So I'm going to, just from this point on, I'm going to say connections instead of network. Why? Well, words matter. And when I hear the word network, I think of hardware, I think of computers, and it's a bit cold. But really, we've got to tap into the connections with each other. All right. We are all human beings. We're all, spending a good chunk of our days at work, and we really need to make the connection with each other. So that's what that's the word I'm going to be saying is connection instead of network. And I encourage you to do that too. And doesn't it sound better anyway? I mean, wouldn't you rather make a connection versus network? It just sounds so much more appealing to that. And when we make those subtle changes, even in our thoughts and the way we approach things, it really makes a difference. So anyway, so that is, let's just get started then with today. This page is just a little bit about me. My background, I don't know if all of you know, but I come from the world of human resources. I have done career pivots though. I have, because I have my accounting degree and I also passed the CPA exam. So I started off in accounting and finance, and then I did a career pivot, and I've done other career pivots too. So they can be done. They're not impossible at all. And I was able to go into human resources, which has been a great area. I've really enjoyed it so much. And I've always wanted to use my HR experience to help individuals. And that's what I'm doing now, helping you. And so anyway, I'm really trying to distill down the lessons that I've learned so to help you in your careers. We should always have a career plan. So yeah, I want everyone to ditch the job search process, because I feel like the job search process is really broken, or the interview process is really broken. When I'm talking with many of you, you're doing several interviews and then the employer is not getting back to you. You're getting ghosted, or they're hiring an internal candidate after having you talk with 9 million people at their company. It's not working. So what do we do to combat that? We have a career plan. We can't control these external factors that are outside of us. All we have control over is ourselves. So that's why we need to have a plan that we can follow and that we can implement. And it's also not going to be a reactive plan. It's not, well, when this happens, then I do this, or this happens. We're really being more intentional and present and focused on what we want and what we want to build. So really think of it from that perspective. I love this quote, and you probably have heard of it. It's from Oscar Wilde, and it's to be yourself, because everyone else is taken. And I never want you to pretend to be something that you're not. Because that's not why you're here. We need you to fully show up as you. we're relying on you because there's no other you like you. So I need you to be you, and you need me to use my unique skills and talents. So this is that's why this is my favorite quote, and I feel like it's the center of my work as a career coach. So remember, if you ever are struggling with your search or your career, I want you to be centered on yourself and think about this quote. Okay, so we are going to jump into the meat of the potatoes of today's session, but I do need to start with this. And often with many of you, and some of you I've done this with, and some of you I haven't. And this is when we do the career clarity call. When you do a career clarity call with me, it's typically the first time that you and I are talking. We're new connections, okay? And I want to get to know you more. And I want to also help you. I want you to get value out of our time together. So, and I will ask you typically 2 questions, okay? The first question, and I'm really only going to touch upon that today. The first question is, how do you rate your clarity in your brand on a scale from 1 to 10? Okay. And I really feel your clarity in your brand impacts your career immensely. And if you're doing a job search, it impacts that a lot. So that is really important. So you might have given yourself a low number when I asked you that question, or if you're asking yourself that question now, maybe you're like, oh, Christine, I'm only a 5. I'm really not sure what my brand is, or I'm a 1. I have no clue. This is where you start, okay? And I can make it even more simple for you, okay? If you had to come up with 5 adjectives to describe yourself at work, how you are at work, and the value that you provide, using your superpower, using your skills and your strengths, what would those 5 adjectives be? And I challenge you to use unique strengths. Don't use the strengths that you see all over the place on LinkedIn that are overused, like I'm a team builder or I'm a good communicator. Too general. Too general. You want to differentiate yourself from other people because, again, going back to that quote that I just showed you from Oscar Wilde, there's no other person like you on this planet. So therefore, differentiate yourself for me, please. What are adjectives that aren't overused, that are unique, that you feel describe you? Okay. And I have an exercise for you to do. It's not even in our workbook. I'm just throwing this at you now, okay, to help you. You know, you probably have heard the expression that we're most like the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And the first coach that I worked with actually had me do this exercise. So now I'm having you do it. And you can do it over the next couple days or even this week. But I want you to, first of all, identify those 5 people that you spend the most time with in your life. Who are those 5 people? And ideally, I'd like you to have at least one of them that you work with, or maybe you used to work with this person. Okay, so someone that you spent a lot of time with at work that knows you pretty well in the workplace. Okay, at least one. But the other people can be friends or family, whatever. But ask each one of those 5 people if they can give you 5 adjectives that describe you. So you're asking every one of those 5 people for 5 adjectives that describe you. Okay. And I'm having you do this exercise to help you get some simple clarity on your brand. Who you are, what do you do, what are you up to? Okay. So that's your homework for the coming week. All right. So, and that should help you get some clarity on your brand. And it's a good question for you to ask at least once a year, I would say, because we're always changing. you are not the same person that you were last year. So don't think you're one and done with asking this question. You should ask it every year, at least. Okay. And then this slide right here that we're looking at, this is like the next step. This is to identify your 5 top strengths. They're from those adjectives, okay? And a great way, again, if you're struggling with that clarity on your brand, then you might want to consider doing the Strengths Finder assessment. Okay, that is the main assessment that I recommend to my clients that they do. Now, yes, I do have other assessments that you can do that are free that will give you more clarity on yourself. But again, we need everyone to make sure that you're muted. I hear some background noise. So if you're not on mute, if you could do that, that'd be great. But again, you need to be clear on your brand. When I ask you the question of rating your clarity in your brand on a scale from 1 to 10, I want you to be as close to a 10 as possible. Okay, because the clearer that you are on that, the better. So that is really important. So anyway, okay, now the other parts of the slide here, it's really important that you pay attention to your mindset. And I know mindset can be kind of a woo-woo topic for people. I'm not just a career coach, I'm also a mindset coach, all right? And the reason why I decided to pursue my mindset coach certification is because it's there in everything that we do. And mindset, I see when I'm working with my clients, like I talked with a client earlier today, and we've all been through challenges, and those challenges are what makes us stronger. But dealing with those challenges can be very hard, and they can make it challenging to get the results that we want to. Okay, but we need to acknowledge it. By ignoring it, it's not going to help. It doesn't go away. It gets worse if we ignore something. So that's why it's important to acknowledge that we've made it to this point. I want you to acknowledge your past wins. It's okay to look at your past challenges too. Yes, definitely look at them. Again, I don't want you to ignore them, but also really look at them as I have lessons learned. With every challenge, there is a lesson learned. How can I make lemonade out of these lemons that I was handed? So, but the key is number 3. You need to be kind to yourself always, or as much as you possibly can. Because again, if you're all you've got in your career and in your work, if you're not kind to yourself, then you're really hurting yourself. And that's where mindset comes in. So just to give you another mini exercise, if you tell yourself that, let's say, I'm out of shape, if that's a message that you keep on telling yourself, I'm out of shape, I'm out of shape, the likelihood is that you're going to be out of shape because you keep on telling yourself that. It doesn't help anything. Our brains believe what we tell them. So with your career and with your job search, I want you to be super aware, really try to be very aware of maybe that one phrase or sentence that you're telling yourself, because that could be hurting you, that could be stopping you. And that's why this reflection that we're doing today is so important. So what is a thought that all you have to do is come up with one? What's a potential thought that you could be telling yourself that is not helping you? It could be slowing you down. It could be making it more challenging to reach out to your connections. It could be slowing you down in so many different ways. if you just write it down, and you can write it down in your workbook because we have a space for notes for you to take. You could write it down. And then by looking at it, you can say, okay, what is something positive that I believe, you have to believe it, that I could replace with this instead. So instead of saying, I'm not very fit, or I'm not healthy, I'm out of shape, you could say to yourself, again, it has to be something that you believe. I am going to the gym every day, but you have to do it too. But something that's positive. I care. I'm dedicated to being healthy. You could say that if you really believe that, but you have to flip it, and we have to have that awareness to our thoughts. That's really important. So again, these STAR stories are the next level. So I gave you that homework of coming up with those 5 adjectives, and also asking the 5 people that you spend the most time with. But the STAR stories, that's the next level. That's actually, think of blowing the adjectives out. Blowing the adjectives out and really having a story. Because we want to leverage the power of story in our careers. When we're connecting with people, I mean, that's how you can really get to know your connections, is through the power of story. You know, by you sharing your stories, even by you sharing your stories in your LinkedIn profile, that's how your brand gets communicated. We can't discount the power of story. Story is very powerful, but we want to use it. So this simple framework is the way for you to really leverage the power of story. Always keep in mind STAR. So as long as you've got those 4 basics, because if you've ever done interviewing, you probably have interviewed someone, you asked them a question, and they went off. They went off on a tangent. They never answered your question. They talked for a good 10, 15, 20 minutes. They never answered your question. So we don't want that to happen. We never want to do that in an interview. We want to make sure that we are answering questions. But this framework, the STAR framework, is super basic, but it's just your basic outline to make sure that you're covering these things in your story. And yeah, if you're clicking with the interviewer, you're having a great conversation, then sure, you can cover more information, but there'll probably be some back and forth. But it's important that you want to, you know, give that information. You want to cover that. You want to use this basic framework. And that's why we have the STAR story worksheet in your workbook. Again, it'll help you follow that basic framework of STAR. So again, we spend so much of our lives at work, a lot of time at work. So I don't want you to be resigned at all about getting the most out of your work. If you were to rate your overall career and work life, you know, on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate it at right now? If it's not close to a 9 or a 10, there's opportunity for improvement. And why not make it better? Because it's a third of your life. It's a third of your life. And again, are you fully using your awesome brand, your skills and your talents? Are you using them to the fullest? Only you know the answer to that. I don't know the answer. So, but I want you to ask yourself that question. Okay, so here is, I'll just go ahead and jump to this. This is the other question that I ask people about. I wasn't going to cover it today, but I will. What is your ideal role? So this is, if I do a career clarity call, and by the way, if you haven't done a career clarity call with you, I'm inviting you to do one with me very soon. My calendar does book up pretty quickly, but I have limited availability. But book one today with me, because number one, it doesn't cost you anything. Okay. If we're connected, well, number one, we should be connected, because when we are connected, you can access my connections. Okay. And I can help you with your career, or if you're doing a job search, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to make introductions. But anyway, if we're connected, we should have some basic information about each other. So when we do this career clarity call, number one, I'm getting good basic information about you. But also, too, I want to make sure I'm using your time in the best possible way. I want you to get value from having a conversation with me as well. And I want to use my career coach skills to again, help you. So, and this is why I asked the question of, how do you rate your clarity in your next ideal role? I don't expect you to know what your career path is in the next 10 years. If you do know that, that's terrific. But I do want you to know, what is that next thing that you're working toward? And that's what I define as your ideal role. Like, what is that ideal role for you? And this is how I define it. So again, it's work where you feel invaluable, you're fulfilled, because you are, and you're well paid. Compensation is important, and that's a whole other master class that we can talk about. I think just our stories around money and how we're paid and all of that, I'm not going to go into detail, but this is definitely part of it. Your compensation. You're pursuing your purpose in your work, and you feel like your time is being well used, and you're using your strengths to really help others. Or another way of thinking of it is, your light is shining brightly. You are you in the workplace. You feel comfortable with that, and you're really able to play your A game in the workplace. So this is what I define as your ideal role. To flesh it out for you even more, you should be stretching yourself too. Think about it. I had conversations with people where they're comfortable in their job, but they're also kind of bored. And it's, are you learning anything? Because if we're not learning, if we're not stretching ourselves and pushing ourselves, then we're actually in atrophy. We're going backwards. Matter is always in motion. Life is always in motion. So you may think you're standing still, but you're really stepping backwards. So that's important to keep in mind. And really, we're not growing unless we're really stepping outside of our comfort zone and pushing ourselves. So this is part of it too. Okay, so I do want to give you an overview. This is the overview of today, tomorrow, and Thursday, right? And the key to all of this, again, to landing an ideal role without doing a job search, is these pieces, but then also using our connections, because our connections are the key that will really help us immensely. I'll be talking about this. So today, again, I've been talking about your brand, getting clarity on your brand, and we do that in reflection. So again, these are the 3 keys of my program, or the 3 pillars of my program, my one-on-one coaching program. And I call it the Purposeful Work Program. But I do one-on-one coaching, and these are the 3 foundational elements. So again, today is reflect and getting clarity on your brand. And you might be like, well, what do my connections have to do with that, Christine? Well, that's why it's important to tap into your connections right away. What do people, well, I'm going to actually have you put this in the chat. I want to hear from you. So please type in the chat, when you realize, oh, I need a new job. I need to do something. I need to do a job search, the dreaded job search. What's the first thing you think that you have to do when you are going to find a new job or to launch a job search? What's the very first thing that comes to mind? If you could just throw that in the chat, I want to see what you have to say. So when you think to yourself, gosh, I've got to do a job search, what's the first thing that you have to do? What's the very first action item? Resume. That's it. Resume. Oh, someone had networking. Okay, Debbie, very good. Yes. Everybody seems to think of the resume. I have to update my resume. No, that's not the first thing. I mean, I'm glad you're thinking of that. I don't want you to feel bad, but that's not the first thing. So, and I think, and I've done that too. I think we think about that because we make it out to be such an arduous task, and it doesn't have to be. It really is not too bad as long as you do certain things to keep it up to date. Really, what's most important is connecting with people. So that's really important, and talking with your connections and having conversations with them, getting their thoughts, getting their input, getting their perspective. But also too, you have to share your thoughts with them and really bounce it off of them and see what they think. And you know, let them know, why are you thinking of making a change? What are you unhappy with? Talking about what you think would be a better fit for you. Having those conversations is really important, very important. Okay, I have to call this out for you too, because we've got to make these distinctions. We all have these two voices. The inner critic, so you'll hear these two voices when you do your reflection work, okay? And you probably hear them during your workday too. The inner critic is that voice that protects you and keeps you playing safe by convincing you of potential failure, okay? The inner critic, think of, and we can't ditch the inner critic, nor do we want to, because the inner critic was that voice that in caveman days kept us from getting eaten by the dinosaur. Okay, so it's that survival instinct, and again, it's we can't ditch it altogether. It does play a role, but unfortunately, I think sometimes we hear the inner critic all the time on repeat, day in and day out. You need to know if that is the case with you. How often do you hear your inner critic? And then the inner mentor. The inner mentor is that voice of your intuition that allows you to dream and really think of it. Another way you could describe the inner mentor is your higher self. Like, who do you want to be? And this is another exercise for you to think of. Remember, it's kind of tied to the 5 adjectives I wanted you to write down in describing your brand. So really, if your brand is those 5 adjectives, is that what your highest self is? Is that where you want to be? You know, what are you working toward? And why be that person now? So for me as a career coach, my 5 words are, I actually have them in my calendar right now. So, and I have a calendar reminder. So, because that's how important it is to stay on brand and to really be that person that you want to be. You need to do it. So my words are, and you would think that I would have them, but I want to make sure I'm not forgetting any of them. So invaluable, leader, calm, compassionate, and illuminating. Those are my 5 ones, but I also have engaged is important to me too, because I really want to be present as well. So yeah, I guess I'm cheating with 6 words, but this helps you to stay focused and to be present. So anytime you have that inner critic, you hear that negative phrase that's on replay over and over again, say, okay, I hear you, but get recentered on your brand, who you are, your 5 adjectives. And then in your career, in your work, and you're focused on your star stories too, because that all helps you to stay on brand and to be in your brand, to be who you are. A fun exercise to do, this is optional, but think about if you had to name your inner critic, who would your inner critic be? Some women I've talked with have thought of their mother, that's their inner critic. For my inner critic, I don't know if any of you have watched Saturday Night Live in the past, but Dana Carvey, he did a character called the Church Lady. I feel the Church Lady is my inner critic, so just had to share that with you. The inner mentor, who is that inner mentor? Who's that person that you would aspire to be? The inner mentor is really you, like 20 years down the road too. So, but it's important to reflect, to take the time to do this reflection, because this is not a dress rehearsal. We are not getting out of here alive. And again, going back to that slide, we spend a third of our lives at work. So really, we need to be super intentional about this. It is very important. Can't stress it enough. Okay, and then keeping an eye on the time. I want you to be aware of all the noise that we have. And don't you feel that the noise, the external noise that we hear every day, keeps on getting louder and more crowded? Is there anyone who doesn't feel that that's the case? Yeah, I just feel that there's more and more things. We have artificial intelligence. I'm not knocking it, but there's more external things. There's the mainstream media. We have the pandemic, all sorts of noise out there. And that's another reason why this reflection work is really important. And doing the reflection work and folding your connections in to your reflection work too. I think often when we think of reflection, we think of solitude. We think of being by ourselves. And yeah, there's a component to that, but I don't want you to do it all by yourself. I want you to fold in your connections too, because our connections are really, they're the diamonds in our career. They are those relationships. And I think that we have diamonds that are buried in our backyard and we're not accessing them fully. And I want you to dig them up and I want you to access them fully. That is key. And that this is just, questions that I ask, you can ask yourself. So I just say she because I'm a she, but I mean, guys, this applies to you too for your inner mentor. Who is he 20 years from now? Where does he live? What does he eat? What does he look like? What does he like to do for fun? What has he accomplished in his career? What clothes does he wear? All these things. It's good to take the time to think about these things. And again, what's important to you. So that's why. The number one goal setting mistake too is in listening to your inner critic and listening to the noise. So it's important to stay focused on what your inner mentor is really wanting you in the direction that you want to go in. So this is the biggest goal setting mistake, I think. And another way of simplifying this is when we should ourselves. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. It can be hard to separate what we truly want versus what we should be doing. For example, you might be thinking, well, I should be a chief marketing officer. I'm a marketing manager right now. I should be working toward that top role, overseeing marketing for an entire organization. Is that what you really want? Is that what makes you excited? Will you jump out of bed in the morning to do that? If not, that's okay. Maybe you'd rather be a marketing consultant. Maybe you'd rather, do a specific area of marketing. I don't know. Only you know what that is. And you won't know unless you do this reflection work. And your inner mentor is going to lead you to what I like to call the big scary goal. And that's where the growth happens. that's where you're really pursuing what's important to you. So, and what's work that you can do now that will help move you toward your ideal role and that big scary goal. That's important. The big scary goal is the key to you moving forward. It truly is. So again, if I had to summarize all this reflection, all the stuff that I'm throwing at you, I want you and to try to distill it is like, what is your main goal in your career? Like what is, and getting back to the clarity, it's tied to, again, your brand. What is your brand and how do you want to use it? What's that ideal role that you want to use your brand for? So what is your goal and why? I want to know why it is. Why is a great question to ask to make sure that you're not shooting yourself, that you're not doing what you should be doing and that it's truly what you want to do. And the how is important to ask too, but don't forget, it's okay if you don't know, you're not going to know every single thing, but at least if you can know the how of the next step, that's a good start. That's a very good start. Now, in the workbook, we also have a career goal card for you. So this is a little tool for you to help you to stay focused in your career and to, motivate you and to also help you in dealing with that inner critic, that negative loop that we hear sometimes that really holds us back in our career. And then imposter syndrome pops up too. So the career goal can really help you stay rooted in your brand. It's basically, again, how do you want to use your brand? And the how you want to use it is that next ideal role. So that's all right here. We do have some resources too to help you with the reflection. And we did have like a technical snafu with updating the QR codes. But if you have any trouble accessing these, let us know and we can get you the right information. But the reflection again is, you do reflection work on your own, okay, but also folding in your connections too. So, and I encourage you to do your reflection work, even just 5 minutes of reflection, fold it into your daily planning. Like today, when you wrap up your workday today. And what I like to do is when I wrap up my workday for today, I like to wrap it up and also plan for tomorrow. So I do both at the same time. And I'm also reflecting on today. So what were my wins? What was I most proud of? What were my learnings? What didn't go so well? What were the challenges? Okay. So even if you just start with reflecting on that for 5 minutes a day, and then thinking about tomorrow, what is it that you want to work on tomorrow? How do you want to use your brand? What can you do to help you in moving forward with your career? What's something that you could do for 5 minutes? And as I always say, I want you to be connecting with people. So we're going to talk more about that tomorrow and Thursday too. But again, these resources are to help you more with your your reflection on your own. So meditation is an awesome tool. It's a really good tool. And then also this 5-minute journal. This is really good as an app on your phone, and then some affirmations. So that's it. I did go a little over 12:47. But so again, look for the email that we send out this afternoon. It's going to have the recording. It will have the workbook link. We'll go into the Facebook group. We'll get the replay in there somehow. I'm going to have to, maybe we just take the Zoom recording and plop it in there, but we'll figure that out. Sorry that we weren't able to stream live in Facebook. But if you have any questions, when you get the email this afternoon, or even from one of our emails, you could just email us questions and we'll get back to you. And my email is Christine@ChristineCKidder.com. So thanks again. We'll be back here tomorrow at the same time. And again, I encourage you to attend live because you will get the most out of it. Even though this is a free training, treat it as if you spent $10,000 on it, and you'll get a much better return on your time by treating it that way. And then, so we'll go from there. But I will see you tomorrow, same time, same Zoom link. And thank you everyone for being here.